Hi, everyone. This is Jessica. Hi, everyone. This is Jessica with Whispers of Grace Healing. I'm really hoping the internet connection will stay up because I want this to be more of a live conversation and Q&A. But we are going to have a fun and enlightening conversation about dating for the modern day empath. Most people who are drawn to my channel are empaths or sensitives, and this is a huge topic within our community, and Spirit really has some good advice for everybody that I think we can all learn from. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. I am Jessica, and this is my channel, Whispers of Grace Healing. If you are a new subscriber, thank you for joining the family and Vibe Tribe. You know I love you something serious. Thank you to everyone for your support. No matter how you interact with this channel, whether it is simply watching the video, liking, sharing, subscribing, dropping your comments, and booking personal sessions. If it weren't for y'all, this channel wouldn't be where it is. And I thank you all for your contribution. So, with that being said, if anyone needs to get in touch with me or you would like help throughout your own process, you can email me at whispersofgrace1016@gmail.com. All of my information is down below. Hey, Dewey and Ellie, how are you? So glad y'all are here. This is going to be a good one, guys. So I do understand that there are, we are over 5,000 subscribers at this point. So I understand that there are different levels of this process, and there are people on different parts of their journey. So I am going to try my best to go through the different phases of the process and what is it like being an empath. And, a lot of this information is not only going to be coming from Spirit, but it's also going to be coming from personal experience, how I went through my process, how did I even realize I was an empath, and also what I have learned from watching and experiencing through my, environment and the people that are or were in my life. So let's start from the beginning. A lot of people, I would say that I've always kind of known that I was sensitive, right? I've been told from a very early age that I was an old soul, that I always had a different perception of things, that I was a light in this world. But for a lot of my life, I felt like I was easily influenced by other people's emotions, energies, and behaviors. No matter how much I tried to stay positive, there were a lot of people, and perception is everything, guys, and everyone has a different perception. Just because someone knows you doesn't mean that they truly understand you. So let's get that straight. And that goes vice versa. People get a lot of different versions of me depending on the environment and how comfortable I feel. So I've actually had quite a few people tell me that you are a naturally optimistic person. That is not the case, guys. I had my first anxiety attack when I was 16, and I thought I was going to die. Had no idea why. I mean, there were a lot of things that were not dealt with. And I'll go ahead and say, like, if you feel or have ever been called sensitive or empathic or just felt like you've had naturally a lot of chaos in your life, but yet still try to hold on to that there's something more in this life, then this message is probably for you. There were a lot of things that dealt with the abandonment from my father, the issues and the arguing from my childhood, you know, and my parents tried really hard to not argue in front of me and my brother, but there's still, and I mean, a lot of people don't even remember, like, I don't remember a lot from my childhood, but I still remember the night my dad left. I still remember. And that was a big thing growing up, because there's a lot of inconsistency with my father and his relationship with us. And it was because of his own issues. Like, guys, you know, and it took me a lot to realize I knew his mother, and I hate to say it, she was evil. And listen, we can all admit it. There are assholes in this world. There are people who are not sensitive to other one's needs, but only looking out for themselves, and will lie, manipulate, and torture you. But it is also your choice of what you give your attention to and how personally you take it. We all have a choice in what we, you know, choose to interact with. And usually with family, we feel an obligation because they're our blood, but that's not the case. If someone's toxic behavior is ruling your life, then it is up to you to take your power back, and you get to choose how much you want to be a part of that and how much you don't. And that's where you take your power. But it takes a lot of work to realize where you're giving your power away, and also, you know, being able to set healthy boundaries when you're not even sure what a healthy boundary is. Because usually empaths and sensitives end up feeling like a doormat. We have fixer and savior complex. So therefore we're attracted, and it's usually due to abandonment issues, judgment issues, like if you were bullied as a kid, if you didn't get the support and security from your parents, like those kind of things really set the foundation for the people you attract and allow into your life later on. Okay. So I will honestly say that for the longest time, you know, and society builds it up in our head from a very early age that if you don't go to school, don't go to college, if you don't get married, buy a house, have children in that order, and have a successful job, then you are not successful. And especially even not just that, but then you got to worry about your body weight, your looks. They set up this perfect vision for what everyone in this world should be, and there's no individuality, there's no authenticity, and then it creates like a complex of feeling like we're never good enough. And then due to our traumas and our fears and, you know, abandonment issues, we end up, like, most sensitives and empaths really have this need and longing to connect to something, yet don't really feel connected to anything. I remember so much in my life that I just wanted to feel wanted, that I wanted someone to acknowledge me, someone to love me. And I was looking for it in all the wrong places. And I put my own worth and my own validation in someone else's hands. And when they couldn't show up for me, I took it so personally of, why am I not good enough? Why am I not lovable? And no matter how much, and that was the thing too, it didn't matter who it was in my life. I tried to be what everyone wanted me to be. Do you understand how many versions of me there are going on in other people's heads? Because everyone needed a different version from me. I would drive myself mad trying to be the perfect friend, trying to be the perfect girlfriend, trying to be even at one point, the perfect wife. And then a good boss, a good employee, a good daughter, a good influence. And yet I had no idea how much I was lacking in my life because I had no true connection to myself. So it came to the point of I always had the hardest time like truly making decisions for myself without influence of others. And that's really where this journey starts. Okay. So no matter what relationship I was in, I always ran into the same thing. And it wasn't until I was married that I realized these are all different people, but yet I keep running into the same ending. It's the same process, it's the same storyline, it's the same chaos, it's the same heartache. What is the common denominator? Me. And I had to take myself out of a situation that, because like as a Taurus, listen, when I love hard, right? And I have a really hard time giving up on people. I had severe attachment issues. I would cling on to anything that, felt comfortable or familiar, and hated change, hated change. I wanted to know that whatever I was putting my time and energy into, and that didn't matter if it was relationships, romantic relationships, or friendships, or family members, even work. If I was going to put my time and energy into it, I wanted to know that it was going to work. But I also had a lot of issues with ignoring red flags and not listening to my intuition. When my empathic abilities, and I've always had experiences from a very young start, but I shut my abilities off due to some traumatic experiences around 13. And those were the darkest days of my life. Darkest days of my life. When I lost my connection to spirit, when I lost my faith in God, when I lost faith in myself, and I didn't trust the world, I didn't trust anything, yet I was looking for something to connect to. So therefore, I tried to find relationships that would fill that void for me, that would make me feel good about myself, because I didn't feel that for me. I couldn't look in the mirror and think that I was beautiful or that I had something really to offer besides pouring my love into someone. And that is by taking care of someone, reminding them that they are, better than their circumstances or better than their pain, and constantly being the cheerleader for people in their life. And that's why I'm good at what I do. I just had to turn it around in a different way to actually be of service to the world instead of pouring all of my time and energy into one person. But it was one of those things where I had to understand the way they were behaving were no reflection of me, because I know that deep down I'm not perfect, but I give my all to everyone. And I know that anyone you talk to from my past, regardless of what the circumstances are, they'll say that I showed up for them in every way that I could. And to the point that I was sacrificing myself and my own happiness because I was living my life for everyone else. When I realized my empathic abilities were starting to kick in, I couldn't really figure out what was going on with me. I was working in the hair industry for, about 12 years at that point. And there was one person in particular that just knew how to push my buttons, get under my skin. And no matter how much I prepared myself for the day and said, I'm going to kick ass, I'm going to make a lot of money, I'm going to do my best, I'm just going to show up with a great attitude, and we're going to make this day and get out of here, right? It was getting to that point, like, just do your day, get home. And the moment this person walked in the door, like a shadow came over me. That's when I was led to healing crystals and listening to my intuition of what was calling to me. It also led me to tarot as well. So there is a lot of things in that circumstance that actually contributed to learning about my abilities. At that point, I had no idea what I was capable of. And there's still a lot that I'm not really sure of how extensive my gifts really are. But the more that I focused on myself, focused on my well-being, focused on the health of my soul, not just my body, really taking the time to go through the pain. I mean, I used to have really, really bad coping mechanisms where if a man hurt me, and I'm not proud to say this, but I'll be honest with y'all. When I was younger and a man would hurt me, especially my first love, we were back and forth a lot. When he hurt me, I would find someone else to fill that attention void, right? Or I would drink. I was a heavy drinker when I was younger. And a lot of people end up turning to sex or substance to numb the pain, to fill the void. And it wasn't till my separation with my husband that I was like, I'm not going out. I am not drinking. I'm not doing anything. I want to feel every bit of this because I can't do this anymore. And I have to take responsibility and accountability. But it wasn't till I learned about my empathic abilities that everything started kicking off, and then realized all the red flags that I kept ignoring, all the things that I was picking up off my husband, all the intuitive hits, and everything just started popping off. And you couldn't ignore it. I mean, you couldn't ignore it. And that's the thing too. A lot of people, sensitives, empaths, have a hard time deciphering if it's actually theirs or not. So think about it in this terms. If you're by yourself, right, and you're going about your day, everything's fine, and then all of a sudden, like a weird emotion or heaviness washes over you, you could be under psychic attack. Someone else could be thinking of you and unbeknownst to them, some people don't understand they're doing it, but they're projecting negative energy onto you. The moment you feel that, and I was having this conversation with Elizabeth this morning, the moment that you feel that, you have a choice to say, I am aware that this is not mine. Get the F out. It's not mine, right? But the more that you let it in, the more that it takes over. And it's really important for you to have awareness of what your energy even is so that you can decipher. And you can always ask too. Like if you're in touch with your intuition and you trust your higher self and your spirit team, you can always ask, is this mine or not? If it is, give it some space. Take some time with it, lean into it, and listen to what it has to say to you, and go through the process of working through it instead of ignoring it. If it's not yours, then push it aside, redirect it. But that's your choice. So, so for people who are on the beginning stages of understanding their abilities and whatnot and still trying to date, listen, the modern day empath in this dating world is really hard, especially once you start to learn your abilities, because you're not quite sure what to trust. And if you haven't dealt with your old patterns and the things that are blocking you from actually having a conscious relationship, because that's what we're talking about here. A lot of people are wanting love, but I'm talking about a true compatible soul partner, right? Like if you want the real thing, these are the processes you're going to have to go through in order to attract that, unless you want to continue down the karmic pattern and living on the surface. And if you do, that's cool, whatevs, but if you want to have more fulfilling relationships, I really feel that this is the process. And if it works for you, great. If it doesn't, I wish you the best, and I hope you find the tools that you need. So with that being said, if you continue down the karmic pattern and, keep doing the same thing, expecting a different result, you're going to drive yourself crazy. So it's really important that you take the time to learn about yourself, be in your own energy, understand what your own energy is. I will say that one of the biggest things that I learned in my separation, especially the first year, was leaning on my relationship with my higher power, whatever that may be for you. Okay. My entire life, I believed in something, but I didn't really have a connection to it. Like I've always said, I have my own relationship with God, but it was still surface level because I was still living a surface life. I was still chasing all the things that society told me I should chase. I was filling all the voids with the wrong things, and didn't, again, wanted a connection to something, but therefore really connected to nothing. I wasn't, not really. And so I had to relearn and get back in touch with that part of me that has an intimate relationship with the reason I'm here. What is my purpose? What am I doing with my life? And it wasn't until I started leaning on spirit and really developing a true connection with this universal conscious energy. That's what I feel it is. I feel like it is in everything and everyone. And that's why we're all mirrors. That's why we connect. It's no different than the tree, right? Like, we connect to everything because everything is holding a vibration. So whatever vibration, like a lot of people, and I feel like some of these messages might trigger some people, and that's okay, but it's bringing that up for a reason. If there is resistance to a loving truth, then there's obviously something that is having a hard time accepting it. And so, and there's a process in that itself. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, well, why am I feeling the way that I'm feeling towards this message or this experience? And that's my process. If I get triggered by anything, what am I feeling first off? Why am I feeling it? And what can I do to change the energy around? That's my process and everything. So it's really, really important to take time, especially if you have been burned in relationships in the past. Jumping into another relationship as you're on your awakening journey, or just being sensitive in general, is not always a good idea. A lot of us end up attracting people with narcissistic tendencies, or just straight up narcissist users, abusers. We have this issue with feeling responsible for fixing others. And it's time for us to realize that planting a seed is one thing. Like, listen, if you come into someone's life and you know that, like, okay, say for me personally, this used to be one of my issues. I've had a lot of problems with drinking in the past, and I've had a lot of problems with addicts of all sorts in my life. Just is. And I've seen it all. I've heard it all. And I know what addiction does to people and the people around them. So it's really important for me to not align with someone in a romantic way that has addiction issues. Like, it's one thing if they're working through it or they're in recovery, but it's just a personal decision that if you are still filling the void with substance, then you're not dealing with your issues. And that's not personal for me to take on. It's a choice. But you can't get with someone or, have a romantic involvement with someone that does not. And this is a thing too that a lot of people forget to realize. We have these emotional or vibrational attractions to someone, but forget to even ask the real questions and think about, like, where we are in our lives. Are we in the same place? Are we heading in the same way? Do we have the same goals or morals or whatever the case may be? Now, some people will have conversations like this and, say, someone wants kids, but the other person isn't really sure. So they're like, oh, but, more on the lines that they're okay not having children, but the other person, like, this is something I really, really want. Marriage is really important, right? Like, and this is very important to a lot of people. But if it's not important to the other person, it's not your job to convince them that it's important to them. Okay. If it's a natural progression and that's something that they come to on their own conclusion, then that's one thing. But a lot of us get wrapped up in trying to convince someone that we are worthy of choosing. And that's a vicious cycle. So it's really important that, like, if you cannot ground yourself and not get wrapped up in like love bombing and getting emotionally attached too quickly, doing like wifey or hubby things for someone who is not putting any effort or really showing attention, or you end up having to chase someone to give you time and attention. Like, listen, y'all, if someone's truly interested, and knows how they want to show up for someone, because I mean, everyone expresses their love differently, but if you are compatible in your love language and it flows, and this person truly wants to be in your life, you're going to know. And it's important for those of us that are in the dating scene to not only take our emotions and our actions and responses, be accountable for it, but also understand that it's okay to say no. Just because you have a connection with someone, if they don't fit where you're heading in life, don't just settle on that person. A lot of people feel that, oh, I'm going to miss out or whatever the case may be. But if you give it enough time, right? Because there's a lot of people that wear mask out here. People are going to tell you what you want to hear. So if you give everyone enough time and really trust yourself and pay attention to the red flags, I call it deja vu. If you have smelled this bullshit before, don't go down the rabbit hole. Like, just don't do it to yourself. Because a lot of us see like blatantly how someone is living their life, especially, if you've known the person for a little bit or whatever the case may be. You see people's patterns, you see their behavior. By having conversation, you're going to figure out like where this person really stands. Once those masks come off, like, you have to be honest with what you're witnessing, right? People show you, it might not be what you want it to be, but it's also up to you to say if that works for you or not. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But don't go wasting time, because a lot of us end up getting to that point where we want it to work so bad. And I've been guilty of this before, that we want it to work so bad that we end up overlooking things that actually end up hurting us in the long run, and then blame later that, like, oh, well, you did this to me, but it's been happening all along, and now you're wanting to not take accountability that you allowed it to happen in the first place. Like, if you're not communicating things that bother you, setting healthy boundaries, if there is no changed behavior, that person is not, I mean, some things take time, but there has to be some effort happening, right? If you're not seeing any effort, then that person's telling you very loud and clear where their priorities are and if they're going to take it seriously or not. And especially in the beginning of relationships, it's going to be a navigation process, but honesty with yourself is very important in these times. So take your time, figure out what works for you, but that's where the connection with yourself comes in. If you're not taking time to get past your karmic patterns and limiting belief systems, if you're still questioning your worth or, your ability to be accepted, or, feeling successful and happy regardless of your relationship status, you're going to end up disappointed every time. It just is. Because you're relying on outside influences to make you happy, and that doesn't work. Happiness is an inside job, people. So I will say that that's usually the beginning of it. Then as you ascend and you really start to trust yourself, you hone in on your abilities and you're trusting more and more, especially when it comes to reading other people's energy. Fun times. So usually at this time, you're going to realize that a lot of things that used to be important to you in relationships are no longer that important, or that you have less tolerance for the games that go into the normal dating pattern that you were probably used to. Now, with that being said, there's, my mom used to tell me all the time, you got to kiss a lot of frogs to meet your prince. Well, this is probably that period, right? Where you might meet quite a few people, especially if you're staying open to the dating experience, not necessarily going out and searching for it, but allowing people to come in. You're focused on your mission, you're focused on your purpose, you're taking the time to, connect with yourself and learn more about your abilities. So, you have your priorities usually in check, or in some sort of awareness of where you're heading along your journey. When you get to this point, you usually get to that point of opening up to the experience. Now, you might meet a lot of people that are really nice, and some people that might just remind you exactly of your past experiences. It's important for you to understand that the people who remind you of your past experiences are reminding you that for a reason. Don't fall into the trap. Just kindly say, been there, done that, moving on. It's okay. Those people are usually like the really, really intense attractions where it has a lot of sexual lust and a deep magnetic, like, I want this person, and the more they pull away, the more I want, right? Like, just don't even go down that road. It's not a healthy one. If you feel that you want to be magnetically drawn or sexually driven towards someone that's pulling away from you, pull your energy back, okay? Pull your energy back, redirect your energy. But it's also important to take your time to really get to know people and allow yourself to flow with the experience. Usually, once you get to this point, you're more comfortable in your skin, and listen, a lot of people, and I've been hearing it, like, try to be the best version of yourself, right? Whatever that may be. Make sure you're taking care of your mind, body, and soul throughout this whole process, because it's not just about going and getting your hair done and exercising. Make sure you're eating high vibrational foods. It's not just meditating, but it's truly being in the moment, allowing yourself to experience and enjoy the process of your daily existence, right? Going after your dreams, following passionate posts, or inspiring anything, like anything that gets your mojo going. That's what you want to be doing during this time, because it's really important that you just like flood yourself with anything that feels good, because that's going to keep your vibration moving, right? So, but this can actually be a fun period if you allow yourself to truly experience without the emotional attachment. Don't get emotionally attached so quickly, because that's the trap that we fall into. I honestly feel that, and listen, I'm still single, been single for 3 years. I've met a lot of great people, had a lot of great conversation. Some are a little more challenging than others, but it's a process, and I'm honoring myself throughout that path. Now, I will say for several months now, I can feel this energy wanting to come in. I feel myself being prepared. But it's through my experience of the people I've met and the people that I've talked to and every person I learn from, right? How to be more grounded, how to be more centered, how to be more confident, and to love myself fully, that if I show up authentically, whether that works for someone or not, I'm good. I know that I'm not going to jump into anything that is not healthy for me, and I'm not going to invest in anything that is not invested in me. So when you take on that energy, when you take on that confidence and that knowing, it is natural part of law of attraction. You're going to allow the energy to flow into you because that is the energy you're putting out. And when you're open to receiving love in all of its forms, that creates happiness in your daily life. You know, lately, whatever has shifted for me personally since the Lion's Gate is such a beautiful feeling. And I understand this might not last forever, but I'm going to try and keep it flowing as much as possible because it feels so good. It feels so good. And I know that everything's going to be okay. Like, it's gravy. And for the first time and probably ever, I truly feel happy for no reason at all. For no reason at all. Because I just simply am. And I think that's such a beautiful and heartfelt thing to be for someone who has suffered the majority of my life because of my own control issues, because of my own fears, and just everything that I used to do to feel accepted in life. And it's probably because I finally accepted myself. So I feel it's really important. And then getting into, you know, a lot of people are really coming into alignment with their person, right? I see a lot of beautiful relationships unfolding in the tribe, and you know, that brings its own set of challenges because a lot of you are still going through the process. It's an ever-going process. I'm not saying that you have to be perfect in order to attract the love of your life, but I do feel you have to have some sense of self and some sense of awareness to be able to deal with your triggers and move through things together. And that's why you have to have someone invested in you just as much as you're invested in them, because this is a process that you're going to do together. And the person you choose to have by your side, you want to make sure they're going to be there for you through thick and thin, not just when it's convenient for them. So ask yourself, how are you showing up for yourself? If you feel drained, if you feel lack, if you feel closed off, ask yourself, what does my soul need right now? What does my body need? And when we take inspired action, right? We receive the information, we feel the internal nudges. When we take action on that, and it's not a process that's going to happen overnight, but it's planting the seeds and following the breadcrumbs. The more breadcrumbs you follow, the more you are going to receive because you are moving more and more in alignment. So act as if it's right now because the moment is now. Yesterday nor tomorrow truly exist. Time is fluid, guys. So make the most of your moments right now and take your life back. Take your happiness back and truly understand who you are and what you're worth. If you have to get in the mirror and say, listen, you beautiful, amazing person, you are genuine, you are kind, you are loving, you are supporting, you know, and like really ask yourself, how are you showing up in life? If you want someone to show up for you a certain way, then I would suggest that you show up the same. If you feel like you're not receiving, give. But also allow yourself to receive. A lot of givers have a hard time receiving, and the universe likes to provide in many beautiful, miraculous ways. It doesn't matter how it shows up, it just matters that it does. So whatever experience you need to evolve, the universe is going to provide. So you might as well align with something that feels good to you, that feels inspiring, that makes you want to get up and move forward with your day. Just do it. If you have to, you know, clean things out, because there's a big clean out process. A lot of people call this the tower moment. Anything that is built on a faulty foundation will crumble. if a relationship in your life, and this is one of the things we hold on to, not letting relationships, especially toxic relationships, go when we feel it's time because we don't want to give up on something. When it's truly toxic and it's affecting your life, your mentality, and your well-being, it's not giving up on something, it's releasing yourself from something. And it's really important that you take into consideration your own happiness, right? We can't control what other people do, but we can control what we do in each circumstance. So how are you showing up? How do you want to show up? And if you don't have a tight relationship with yourself, I would really suggest doing mirror work. Mirror work was a beautiful and heartwarming experience for me as someone who had a lot of self-confidence issues and body image issues. So getting in the mirror and being able to truly look at myself and say, I love you and I got you. We're going to get through this together and nothing's going to stop us. We're shooting for the stars. Like, it's me and you, baby, right? Like, you do what you got to do. But then also listening to my body, like truly listening when my muscles were hurting, when I had brain fatigue, when I was lethargic or depressed. Like, I had to do things, whether that be taking time to rest when I was pushing myself too hard, or if I was being too lazy to get up and go for a walk and listen to some great music and go be around some, high vibrational, inspirational people. Like, do what you got to do in whatever circumstance, but only you know what truly works for you and what is needed in that moment. So when you get to that point of listening to yourself, taking care of yourself, having more of a conscious relationship with self, then you are able to have deeper, meaningful, and conscious relationships with other people, right? If you want to have a deep connection with someone, you can't stay shut off. We want to protect ourselves. So it's allowing enough to come in without being a doormat, having healthy boundaries, knowing when to move on, and taking accountability for your own fears, your own triggers, and how you're showing up for yourself and others. So, Dewey and Ellie are in here. Okay, so like, going into the relationships, like people who are actually in relationships. Dewey and Ellie have an amazing story. If y'all don't mind, I'll share a little bit. They've been a part of the tribe for a long time, and they actually met each other through our connections on YouTube. And it was actually very beautiful and inspiring because once they started to get to know each other, they just clicked. They knew. And it didn't take long for Ellie to, and she fought with this for a while. She was scared of, because Dewey lives in Canada, and I can't even remember where you're from because now I just, you're from Canada, Canadians. So, I mean, it was like, I remember when you were talking about all these changes that you were going to have to make and all these things that you were going to have to let go of, and especially a fear of money making such a big leap. But what did Spirit do? Like, the more she questioned it, right? The more she questioned it, the more Spirit started to remove the things that she was scared of. They were forcing her hand. And so then it got to the point where it's like, okay, well, everything kind of took care of itself. Let's go. And she made the choice. She moved. She went to go live with Dewey, and now they're on their own adventure, and they've been going through their process too. It doesn't mean that you're not going to run into your own hardships or you're not going to have to navigate things. But when you're in it together and you know that this is something worth fighting for, both of you will do what it takes to make sure that the relationship is healthy and strong. Am I right or am I wrong? Is that a good way of explaining it, guys? I'm hoping that was a good way of explaining it. So, um, yeah. So, yeah, exactly. And I love that. And that's how it should be. Um, so for me, it was a connection where it was a true mirror. It was so comfortable to be my true self immediately. No, not one defensive thought holding space for our emotions. And I love that. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. Um, so yeah, but all you can do is just try to navigate. Everyone's trying to navigate with the best of their abilities with the tools they have in hand. Now, you can help anyone you come across with what you know, but the thing is, no matter how many seeds you plant, you can't keep forcing it to grow. If someone is not willing to take the necessary steps in order to better their life, it is not your responsibility to hold their hand or force them to do so. If it's something they truly want, they're going to do it. But don't waste your time and energy waiting. And there's a difference between waiting and patience. But no matter what, if you're being patient, you're living your life, you're doing what you have to, and you're enjoying the process and not being attached to any certain outcome, right? So I think that's the big thing in a lot of the communities I'm seeing is if you want love, but you're holding on to a certain someone that you've attached a label to, but they're not showing up for you in any sort of way, you're just blocking yourself off. Like, allow love to come in. No matter what, even if that person is your twin flame or soulmate, like, if you are at a high vibration and you are manifesting love in your life, if that person's free will does not align with what you have in mind, then spirit's going to bring it in a different form. And that's how law of attraction and manifestation works. It's no different than money. If you say, spirit, I need $10 in my account so I can put some gas in my tank or something, and someone just happens to give you a $10 scratch off, like, it doesn't matter how it comes. Maybe you get an extra tip with your service, or you have someone that, you find it in the parking lot. It doesn't matter. It's always going to find its way to you if it's meant to be yours. So don't limit yourself and don't block yourself from what's truly meant to be yours. Allow yourself to flow with life. Allow yourself to be an interactive piece in the present moment, and just do the best you can. All we can do is try to be a better person than when we were yesterday. And that comes from experience. That comes from learning and taking conscious steps to do self-healing and self-care. So I hope these messages help you guys, though. If it does, or there's someone that you feel needs to hear it, please share it out. Hey, Danny, late to the party. Or were you in here earlier? No. Danny's just showing up to the party. So, hey, Melissa. So, yeah, guys, but make sure that y'all like, share, subscribe, drop me a comment. Let me know how it resonates with you. And if you know anyone that needs to see it, please share it out. I love you guys so much. And if you need help, like if any of this resonates with you and you need help on your personal journey working through some of the stuff, like you need a support system, I got you. Just email me at whispersofgrace1016@gmail.com. And don't forget, everyone, I also have the membership up now. The join button is right next to the subscribe button. Got all kinds of perks and good stuff and more to come. So I love you all. I wish you all the best of luck, and I will talk to you very soon.